So let us see the advantages of performance appraisal. So first, in terms of promotion, performance appraisal helps the supervisors to chalk out the promotion programs for efficient employees. In this regards, inefficient workers can be dismissed or demoted as the case may be. Performance appraisal helps in chalking out compensation packages for employees. Merit rating is possible through performance appraisal. Performance appraisal tries to give worth to a performance. Compensation packages, which includes bonus, high salary rates, extra benefits, allowances, and prerequisites, are dependent on performance appraisal. The criteria should be merit rather than seniority. Next slide. So in terms of employees' development, the systematic procedure of performance appraisal helps the supervisors to frame training policies and programs. It helps to analyze strengths and weaknesses of employees so that the new jobs can be designed for efficient employees. It also helps in framing future development programs. As to selection validation, performance appraisal helps the supervisors to understand the validity and importance of the selection procedure. The supervisors come to know the validity and thereby the strengths and weaknesses of selection procedure. Future changes in selection methods can be made in this regard. Next slide, please. Next slide.
Nagahang po. Wait lang po.
Okay lang, ma'am. Thank you. So in terms of communication, for an organization, effective communication between employees and employers, performance appraisal is very important. Through performance appraisal, communication can be sought for in the following ways. Number one, the employers can understand and accept skills of subordinates. Number two, the subordinates can also understand and create a trust and confidence in superiors. This helps in maintaining cordial and congenial labor management relationship. It also develops the spirit of work and boosts the morale of employees. So all of the above factors ensure effective communication. Number six, next slide please. As to motivation, performance appraisal serves as a motivation tool. Through evaluating performance of employees, a person's efficiency can be determined if the targets are achieved. This very well motivates a person for a better job and helps him to improve his performance in the future. Next slide, please. So here are the tools and techniques of performance appraisal. So number one is the ranking. Number two, the paired comparison. Next, the force distribution, confidential report, AC evaluation, critical incident. Next slide, please. The checklists, the graphic rating scale, the behaviorally anchored rating skills or bars, the forced choice method, the management by objective or MBO. Number 12 is the field review technique. And number 13 is the performance test. Next slide, please. So let us discuss ranking method. So ranking system requires the rater to rank his subordinates on overall performance. This consists in simply putting a man in a rank order. Under this method, the ranking of an employee in a work group is done against that of another employee. The relative position of each employee is tested in terms of his numerical rank. It may also be done by ranking a person on his job performance against another member of the competitive group. Next slide, please. So advantages of ranking method is that employees are ranked according to their performance levels. It is said that it is easier to rank the best and the worst employee through this method. Next slide, please. Next slide pa, ma'am. Ma'am, balik po tayo, ma'am. Sorry. Sa slide 13. Isa pa po, ma'am. One step backward. Okay. So, what are the limitations of ranking method? So, number one is the whole man is compared with another whole man. In this method, in practice, it is very difficult to compare individuals possessing various individual traits. This method speaks only of the position where an employee stands in his group. It does not test dali lang ha, medyo nagkaka-problema yung connection ko. So, this method speaks only of the position where an employee. Hello?
Rinig ka po, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So, this method speaks only of the position where an employee stands in his group. So, it does not test anything about how much better or how much worse an employee is when compared to another employee. So, number three, another limitation is that when a large number of employees are working, ranking of individuals become a difficult issue. Another thing is that there is no systematic procedure for ranking individuals in the organization. The ranking system does not eliminate the possibility of snap judgment. Next slide, please. So critical So what about this critical incident technique? Under this method, the manager prepares lists of statements of every effective and ineffective behavior of an employee. These critical incidents or events represent the outstanding or poor behavior of employees or the job. The manager maintains logs of each employee where he periodically records critical incidents of the worker's behavior. At the end of the rating period, these recorded critical incidents are used in the evaluation of the worker performance. An example of a good critical incident of a customer relations officer is, for example, in March 12, the officer patiently attended to a customer complaint. He was very polite and prompt in attending the customer's problem. So here an incident took place. Next slide, please. So what are the advantages of critical incident techniques? Number one, this method provides an objective basis for conducting a true discussion of an employee's performance. Number two, this method avoids recency bias. Most recent incidents are too much emphasized. Next slide, please. So, of course, there are also limitations. So, first, negative incidents may be more noticeable than positive incidents. So, minsan, kung ano yung maling nagawa mo, yun yung naalala ng tao. So, number two, the supervisors have a tendency to unload a series of complaints about the incidents during an annual performance review sessions.
I didn't get that. Could you try?
Number three is that it results in very close supervision which may not be liked by an employee. And number four, the recording incidents may be a chore for the manager concerned who may be too busy or may forget to do it. Next slide, please. So another tool is the checklist unweighted checklists. In this system, a large number of statements that describe a specific job are given. Each statement has a weight or scale value attached to it. While rating an employee, the supervisor checks all those statements that most closely describe the behavior of the individual under assessment. The rating sheet is then scored by averaging the weights of all the statements checked by the rater. A checklist is constructed for each job by having persons who are quite familiar with the job. These statements are then categorized by the judges and weights are assigned to the statements in accordance with the value attached by the judges. So advantage of checklist and weighted checklist is that this is the most frequently used method in evaluation of employees' performance. Next slide, please. So what are the limitations? First, this method is very expensive and time consuming. Rater may be biased in distinguishing the positive and negative questions. Number three is that it becomes difficult for the manager to assemble, analyze, and weigh a number of statements about the employee's characteristics, contributions, and behaviors. Next slide. So apart from those aforementioned, here are the 5 modern methods of performance appraisal. Number one is the self-evaluation, wherein employees first conduct their performance assessment on their own against a set list of criteria. So what is the advantage? The pro is that the method helps employees prepare for their own performance assessment and it creates more dialogue in the official performance interview. The con is that the process is subjective and employees may struggle with either rating themselves too high or too low. Next slide. Balik po tayo ma'am sa number 2. So behavioral checklist. A yes or no checklist is provided against a series of traits. If the supervisor believes that the employee has exhibited a trait, a yes is ticked. If they feel the employee has not exhibited the trait, a no is ticked off. If they are unsure, it can be left blank. The pro is that simplicity of the format and its focus on actual work-related tasks and behavior, so there will be no generalizing. The con is that there is no detailed analysis or detail on how the employee is actually doing, nor does it discuss goals. Next slide, please. Number 3 is the 360-degree feedback. This type of review includes not just the direct feedback from the manager, an employee, but also from other team members and sources. The review also includes the character and leadership capabilities. The pro is that it provides a bigger picture of an employee's performance. The con is that it runs the risk of taking in broad generalizations from outside sources who may not know how to provide constructive feedback. Next slide, please. Number 4 is the rating scale. A rating scale is a common method of appraisal. It uses a set of predetermined criteria that a manager uses to evaluate an employee against. Each set of criteria is weighted so that a measured score can be calculated at the end of the review. The pro is that the method can consider a wide variety of criteria, from specific job tasks to behavioral traits. The results can also be balanced thanks to the weighing system. This means that if an employee is not strong in a particularly minor area, it will not negatively impact the overall score. The con of this method is the possibility of misunderstanding of what is a good result and what is a poor result. Managers need to be clear in explaining the rating system. Next slide, please. So lastly, management by objectives or MBO. This type of assessment is a newer method that is gaining in popularity. It involves the employee and manager agreeing to a set of attainable performance goals that by the employee will strive to achieve over a given period of time. At the next review period, the goals and how they have been met are reviewed, while new goals are created. The pro of this method is that it creates dialogue between the employee and employer and is empowering in terms of personal career development. The con is that it risks overlooking organizational performance competencies that should be considered. Next slide. So let us see performance appraisal biases. Managers commit mistakes while evaluating employees and their performance. Biases and judgment errors of various kinds may spoil the performance appraisal process. Bias here refers to inaccurate distortions of a measurement. Therefore, while appraising performances, all the following biases should be avoided. These are as follows. Next slide, please. So, the first impression, primacy effect. Raters form an overall impression about the ratee on the basis of some particular characteristics of the ratee identified by them. The identified qualities and features may not provide adequate base for appraisal. So number 2 is the halo effect. The individual's performance is completely appraised on the basis of a perceived positive quality, feature, or trait. In other words, this is the tendency to rate a man uniformly high or low in other traits, if he is extraordinarily high or low in one particular trait. If a worker has few absences, his supervisor might give him high rating in all other areas of work. Next slide, please. Third is the horn effect. The individual's performance is completely appraised on the basis of a negative quality or featured perceived. This results in an overall lower rating than may be warranted. He is not formally dressed up in the office. He may be casual at work too. Next slide, please. Fourth is the excessive stiffness or lenience, depending upon the rater's own standards, values, and physical and mental makeup at the time of appraisal. Raters may be rated very strictly or leniently. Some of the managers are likely to take the line of least resistance and rate people high, whereas others, by nature, believe in the tyranny of exact assessment, considering more particularly the drawbacks of the individual, and thus making the assessment excessively severe. The leniency error can render a system ineffective. If everyone is to be rated high, the system has not done anything to differentiate among employees. Next slide, please. So, central tendency. Appraisers rate all employees as average performers. That is, it is an attitude to rate people as neither high nor low and follow the middle path. For example, a professor with a view to play it safe might give a class grade near the equal to B, regardless of the differences in individual performance. Next slide, please. Personal biases. The way a supervisor feels about each of the individuals working under him, whether he likes or dislikes them, has a tremendous effect on the rating of their performances. Personal bias can stem from various sources as a result of information obtained from colleagues, considerations of faith and thinking, and social and family background, and so on. Next slide, please. So we also have spillover effect. The present performance is evaluated much on the basis of past performance. The person who was a good performer in the distant past is assured to be okay at present also. Number 8 is the recency effect. Rating is influenced by the most recent behavior, ignoring the commonly demonstrated behaviors during the entire appraisal period. Next slide, ma'am. So, what is the importance of performance appraisal? So performance appraisals are usually tied to the financial or the operational year, so that pay and bonuses as well as promotions can be linked to this timeliness. Indeed, many multinational organizations conduct performance appraisal in the calendar year-end. One of the reasons why performance appraisal are so important is that the recognition of employee performance and the subsequent rewards and incentives system follows the review, wherein the top performers usually are given awards during the organizational in-house and town hall gatherings. Next slide, please. So we've arrived at the end of my report, and thank you very much, Dean. Thank you very much, classmates.
Next po yung kay Sir Carino.